Hello, my name is Chris, and today I'll be doing my feasibility analysis on downtown Fort Worth. I'll be going over three types of areas: office space, Class A, retail space, and apartment space. So first, here's some information on the construction and rates that we can get for a project. At the top you see for apartments, office, and retail space, the rental rate, the occupancy rate, and construction cost per square foot. I also listed the source there where I've got that information. One thing about using the construction cost side is I noticed that my averages that I was getting seemed to be a little higher than what I was seeing in actual Tarrant County. I then found closer upon research that for the READ's website, there is a construction factor that actually reduced the construction cost per square foot for Fort Worth. So I put that chart there to see why my construction costs are so low. I also found a few land comps in the 76102 area code, or zip code, which is downtown Fort Worth. For the most part, you can get something for about $11.50 a square foot in downtown Fort Worth. However, we all know there's projects like the Trinity River project, which have made prices go up a little higher. So if you looked at the three land comps that I pulled for downtown Fort Worth, you see two that are running around $11.50 a square foot, and then that middle one is actually right on the Trinity River, and you see it's a small sliver of space, and it definitely requires a premium. However, in commercial real estate, that's one thing I think we have to think about is, what is the Trinity River going to look like 5, 10, 20 years from now? If it becomes the booming tourist area like they want it to be, real estate values in this area could go way up, and you could see a very large return on your investment. As far as financing are concerned, the second quarter of 2013 still showed that interest rates were pretty low. I looked on realtyrates.com and came up with these rates: 5.77% for apartments, 5.2 for office, 4.93 for retail. The DCRs in this area were very high, I thought. Most calculations, it seemed, that we'd been doing were between 1 and 1.25 for a DCR. However, lenders now, I guess coming out of this recession, are requiring DCRs as high as 1.7 for office space. Also, research has shown that the loan to value ratios have dropped from around 80% to between 70 and 75%. And on retail, they're only offering 70% LTV. Another thing about financing I found with commercial real estate is that you do have to worry about origination fees of up to 2%. Most lenders also require adequate reserves for taxes, insurance, and replacements of the property. Most loans are typically non-recourse, but there are also processing fees. Many lenders today also require a huge amount of due diligence to make sure that the metropolitan area is strong enough to hold the increased space, whether it be apartments, retail, or office. And also, some lenders are requiring a minimum contract of $5 million for lending. Now, what this usually means is that some people have to go, in addition to having, an office space, maybe you have an office and retail, you have apartments upstairs with retail down below, trying to get to that $5 million mark because investors really want those big projects that will get you that huge return on investment. So after I gathered all my information, I completed the analysis. I did both the front door and back door SFFA for all three types, as well as a before tax cash flow analysis. And I basically got a summary here on this slide. So first, starting with apartments, I did an assumption that the acquisition cost would be $350,000 across the board for the site. That was after looking at land and saying that for about that price I could get a good piece of land in downtown Fort Worth. Now we could go higher if we think that we want to maybe try out that piece that's by the Trinity River, or lower if we want to be closer to I-35 and less out of the central business district. Again, I assumed a 75% loan to value and a 1.43 required debt service coverage ratio. Again, this is from the assumptions that I got from the previous slide. I kept occupancy rates high at 95%, even though they'd been a little higher than that. I think they'll stabilize around 95%. And with 10,000 square feet, I'm looking at a rental required rate of $15.63. If we remember a few slides back, that is not the rental rate that downtown Fort Worth is getting. I have almost the same analysis for a backdoor procedure. If you look, in fact, it comes up that the maximum supportable site acquisition cost is a negative $1.4 million based on the rents that the downtown area is getting right now. If you do a cash flow analysis, you'll also see that not only is there a negative internal rate of return, but there's also a negative net present value, which means that this is a project that we probably wouldn't want to undertake unless we made some more extraordinary assumptions. So I would say that apartments would probably be the least likely thing that we want to invest in. Things start to look a little better on the retail side. Again, I assumed $350,000 in site acquisition costs. Construction costs were slightly more expensive for retail, and the loan to value is lower at only 70%. The DSR is about 1.41 from the research that we concluded, and the occupancy rate I stabilized at about 90%. So we require a rent of $12.82 per square foot. Now, if you remember from the previous slide, the rents in downtown Fort Worth are about $13.10. There's also evidence that that rent is a lot higher, but again, I was getting numbers all across the board. So to remain conservative, I kept that at about 13 bucks. If we do a backdoor analysis on the SFA, you'll notice that the maximum supported site acquisition cost is only $40,000. Unfortunately, on the land comps that I pulled, I didn't see anything that was that low, and so there'd have to be some other type of situation worked out. Maybe there's a piece of land out there that I didn't pull that maybe is available for a ground lease, that maybe a person who wanted to go into retail could do it without the acquisition costs of that land. Again, on this one, the internal rate of return is 11%. Assuming that you required 12, the net present value on this is negative. So again, it's only $15,000 under. This is one of those on the fence ones. And again, maybe if we try that tract of land on the Trinity River and we, hold it for 10 years instead of just 5, maybe we can get that value up a little bit higher. Finally, we come to Class A office space, which is what I would highly recommend any real estate project in downtown Fort Worth start with. Again, it's assuming a site acquisition cost of $350,000. Although it's the most expensive to construct, with a loan to value of 75% and amortization of 30 years and a 1.7 DSR, we only need about 20 bucks per square foot per year for this to be feasible. Now, if you remember, we're getting almost $28 a square foot in downtown Fort Worth. Looking at the backdoor procedure to see how much we can spend on site acquisition costs, we come up with a value of $881,000. That one piece of land that I found next to the Trinity was only $600,000, and the two larger tracts of land in the downtown 76102 zip code were even less than that. So this project would be definitely feasible. This is further confirmed by the before tax cash flows. Again, you see the summary on the slide, and the internal rate of return is over 30%. I kind of bumped this one up, and let's say that our required rate is 15%. That still gives us a net present value that's very good, and this would be a very, very feasible project to invest in. Therefore, it's my recommendation that the next project that is most feasible for the downtown Fort Worth area is office space. The pros to that are the office rental rates are very high, the construction costs are very moderate, and the occupancy rates have stayed high. There are a few cons to doing office space. There's a very high DCR. The residential rents are low, which means you may not get too many people who live there and also work there. So people may choose to build outside of the downtown central district. Also, there's over 549,000 square feet of Class A office space currently under construction in downtown Fort Worth. Now, this is reported by the Downtown Fort Worth dashboard. However, there are some things working in favor also. The labor force has increased over 12% during the recession, and employment rate is up 3%. Now, this beats not only the national averages, but the averages for the Dallas-Fort Worth metropolitan service area as a whole. Also, office occupancy stayed above 90% during the national recession from December 2007 to June 2009, which means that we won't be looking at a high amount of vacancy if another recession should hit this area. Also, the population has increased 42% since 2000, and over 16% of downtown is undeveloped land. So there's still an area here to get into downtown and to make a profit. The only thing that you want to be concerned about is the vast amount of Class A office space under construction, and that could push rents down as competition increases in this very busy downtown Fort Worth area. So after this feasibility analysis, I recommend investing in Class A office space in the downtown Fort Worth area. Thank you.